An alleged leaked audio recording has put a name to one of the most haunting claims to surface in the entire saga surrounding Wendy Williams. And if the account is accurate, it means that at some point during her 14 years on daytime television, one of her colleagues may have performed CPR to bring her back. That colleague, according to the report, is DJ Boof. Boof worked on the Wendy Williams show for 14 years, from 2008 through 2022, and during that time, he allegedly witnessed her health struggles firsthand. In a since-surfaced audio, he claims he once saved her life by performing CPR. That claim, which was first picked up and reported on by Hot New Hip Hop, arrived in the same week. It was separately reported that Williams is now living in a memory care unit, costing more than $25,000 per month. The collision of those two pieces of information, the alleged private CPR incident and the current reality of her living situation, has reignited public conversation about how serious Williams' health deterioration really was behind the scenes, and how much the people closest to her chose to stay silent about. Born and raised in Brooklyn, Boof built a reputation early by studying New York legends like Tony Touch, Funk Master Flex, and DJ Mr. Chi. His ear for music and crowd-reading ability eventually landed him a position on one of the highest-rated daytime talk shows in America. As Boof himself described it, when he started on the show, there was no DJ at all. He created the entire party atmosphere, which both showcased his talent to a global audience and drew something new out of Wendy herself. He wasn't just spinning records in the corner. He was there on the floor, in the room, present for the moments that happened before the cameras rolled, after they stopped, and everywhere in between. That proximity is exactly what makes the CPR claim so significant. Boof then says that after performing CPR, he never heard from Williams or her team. He believes he may have seen too much, and that he was cut off as a result. That detail, the silence that followed, is the part of this story that has people asking harder questions.
To have this perspective, I'm a DJ. I knew Nikki since high school, right?
If someone performed a life-saving procedure on one of the biggest personalities in American daytime television, and neither the person saved nor anyone around them ever followed up, what does that tell you about the culture of silence that reportedly surrounded that show? Boof actually hinted at something systemic years ago when he responded to fans on Instagram who were raising concerns about Williams' on-air health. He wrote that viewers had an idea what's really going on and that everyone there was afraid to speak up because they don't want to lose their jobs. He added that it would all come out at the time that read like frustration from a former employee. With this new audio in circulation, those words look considerably more pointed in retrospect. Timeline of visible cracks is worth reconstructing carefully, because context matters here. On Halloween of 2017, while dressed as the Statue of Liberty for a live broadcast, Williams began slurring her words, stumbled backward to the gasps of her studio audience, and collapsed to the ground. The show cut to commercial. She returned shortly after and told the audience, "That was not a stunt. I overheated in my costume."
It's time for our How You Doing Halloween costume contest. We do it every year.
And I did pass out. But you know what? I'm a champ and I'm back. That moment went viral immediately. And the official explanation, heat exhaustion from a heavy costume under studio lights, was accepted by most at face value. DJ Boof, who appeared in the 2024 Lifetime documentary, recalled that specific moment by asking of the day she fainted on set. What actually happened? That was on everybody's mind. The costume explanation was always the public-facing version. What was actually happening behind the scenes during those years is now a matter of ongoing dispute and growing revelation. In the 2024 Lifetime documentary titled, "Where is Wendy Williams?" Boof spoke about the role he stepped into after her divorce from Kevin Hunter. He said, Hunter was the protector, making sure she was showing up on time, sober, and ready to work. After Hunter's departure, Boof said he took on that role himself and became that person. That's a striking thing for a DJ to say about his employer. The implication is that Williams needed someone in her corner, managing not just her performance, but her basic stability, and that Boof, by his own account, volunteered for that responsibility out of genuine concern. When Boof eventually left the show before the pandemic, he admitted he was concerned with Williams' health and behavior, as rumors of her relapsing into drug and alcohol addiction began floating publicly. The conservatorship that would eventually be put in place didn't come out of nowhere. The signs, based on multiple accounts, were visible to people inside the building for years. What makes the CPR claim so jarring is that it suggests those signs were not just behavioral. It suggests there was at least one moment severe enough to require emergency cardiac intervention. TPR is not performed for dehydration. It is not administered because someone overheated. If Boof's account in this audio is accurate, that puts the 2017 fainting incident or some other undisclosed moment in an entirely different category. Ultimately, Boof says those who worked on the show were not sure of the extent of her health issues. That is a telling admission. A person performing CPR may not have had full medical context. The people around her were operating in a fog of incomplete information and, according to multiple accounts, fear of losing their employment if they pushed too hard. Where things stand now for Wendy Williams makes this history feel all the more weighty. In a recent interview with the New York Post, Williams gave an update on her condition and living arrangements. It was reported that she lives in a memory care unit for the so-called cognitively impaired, though the outlet noted she sounded sharp. Williams described the facility, Coterie Hudson Yards in Manhattan, as a locked floor with limited access, costing her as much as $25,000 a month, where she spends her days attending church, keeping notes in a notebook, and going to the gym twice a week, on top of that facility cost, which runs approximately $25,800 per month, according to the facility's own website. Williams' estate is also responsible for the guardianship lawyer fees and the fees of her court-appointed guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, who is on retainer at $10,000 a month. The financial drain on her estate is substantial, and that reality is compounded by the fact that in 2024, Morrissey sold Williams' 2,400-square-foot apartment, reportedly at a loss, and at some point also rehomed Williams' 2 cats. Williams has pushed back publicly and repeatedly. On a January 2025 episode of The Breakfast Club, she called in and told the hosts, "I am not cognitively impaired." Her niece Alex Finney appeared alongside her and compared the facility to a luxury prison. In March of 2025, Williams called into The View and told her guardian and the presiding judge to "get off my neck," declaring she needed a new guardian. When asked about a hospital visit that had made news, she said she had a little Adida and needed to see doctors, adding that it was her choice to seek an independent evaluation. The diagnosis situation is itself in legal and medical flux. In February 2024, Williams' care team announced she had been diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia after undergoing a battery of medical tests. The release stated that she had begun to lose words, act erratically, and have difficulty understanding financial transactions. But nearly 2 years later, new tests conducted by a neurologist in New York City reportedly found no evidence of frontotemporal dementia. Sources told Page 6 that Williams' doctors have walked back the diagnosis that once helped justify her guardianship.
She still has a diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia.
And her legal team reportedly planned to file documents requesting that the court terminate the arrangement. Her attorney, Joe Tacopina, said on an ABC Nightline appearance in December 2025 that the plan is for Williams to be out of guardianship, and that guardianship attorneys have assured Wendy by year's end she'll be out. Whether that materializes remains to be seen. But the possibility of the conservatorship ending, anchored partly by a challenged medical diagnosis, makes the years of backstage stories, including the CPR allegation, all the more critical to the public record. What the Boof audio does, regardless of how the legal case unfolds, is add another layer of human testimony to a story that has too often been filtered through institutional spokespeople, court filings, and the managed narrative of people with financial stakes in the outcome. Boof himself has been candid in interviews about the bittersweet nature of his time on the show, saying that when he and Williams reconciled after a period of distance, it was simultaneously a thank you and something more complicated. Leaving the show forced him back to his core identity as a working DJ. He is not a disgruntled former employee with an obvious axe to grind. He is someone who, by his own accounting, cared about her deeply enough to physically intervene in what he describes as a life-threatening moment, and then found himself frozen out for it. That pattern, see something serious, say nothing publicly, then get removed, is consistent with what multiple people in Williams' orbit have described. Her former manager, Will Selby, was documented in the Lifetime documentary quietly intercepting alcohol orders she placed at restaurants. Producers searched her home and attempted to remove bottles she had hidden around her apartment. There was a system of quiet management operating around her, not fully transparent to the audience watching every weekday afternoon, and apparently not fully transparent even among the people doing the managing. Conservatorship system Williams has been living under since 2022 was